Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you from North Carolina on what has to be the 154th day of captivity. Sure feels that way anyway. I think it's only 54 days that we've been in lockdown or locked off the trail, but those times hopefully are getting closer to the end, and so I look forward to getting back out there on the trail. Welcome again to another Appalachian Trail Thru Hiker update. If you get anything out of this today, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Love responding to your comments. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel so you get those notifications every time I post something. Let's get on a couple things before we get started today. One, I want to wish all the moms out there a happy Mother's Day. My wife, Miss Ramdino, she's a mom. My mom, she's still alive, so lots of moms out there. Mothers to be coming up, so we just appreciate you moms and all that you do for us out there, so thanks a lot for that. I also want to thank the hiker community for coming around me over this past week and sending me condolences for the loss of our family pet of 10 years, Roxy. Greatly appreciate that. Roxy meant the world for us, and it really meant the world for me, for y'all to send your condolences and just your stories and your heartfelt sentiments. That's what the hiker community is all about, and I greatly appreciate that. And then speaking of losses, my loss pales in comparison to the loss that we lost one of our own this past week, and I've dedicated today's channel to that, and today's video to that, and to that person, and we'll talk about him briefly here at the end of this video. But let's go ahead and get on with the update. So what's going on with the hikers out there? Well, Joe Hikes finished today at 2:33 p.m. and I believe that is Central Time. He finished his hike of the Patagonia Trail. So Joe decided the best way for him to keep his trail legs was to keep on hiking. So he hiked down on the Patagonia Trail, finished that today, and he's going to take a few days off, and then he is getting back on the AT right where he left off, and that's somewhere around Irwin. So Joe, congratulations on another long trail, and we look forward to you finishing the AT and continuing on in your update. So he did a great job updating before and then on the Patagonia Trail, and we know he'll do a great job on AT. So congratulations to you, Joe. Crusoe is back on the trail starting at Damascus, and they said that Mount Rogers Outfitters was open and they were super helpful, as was the diner there at Damascus. Pit Stop and Synthesizer, they are hoping to be back on trail by the end of May, and possibly starting in Harpers Ferry, heading north from there, and going to be doing a flip-flop. T&G, they plan to start somewhere around June 1st as a flip-flop, and that's kind of going to be a reoccurring trend here as folks starting back as a flip-flop. Owlcat, she is with Winky, and they came past McAfee's Knob, and they are somewhere now around the Guillotine in mid-Virginia, and they are just short of the Shanties. So hopefully they're not going to have any trouble getting through the Shanties. Dirty Jobs and his family of Pearl, Punchline, Dexter, and Blue Jeans, they are somewhere north of Waynesboro. Pipes and Grizz, they are in the Shanties, and they said they are having no issues. They hadn't come across a ranger as of yesterday yet, but they got in there fine. There was no barricades or anything up on the trail, so hopefully that's going to continue for them, and they're going to report back to me if they do come across a ranger that gives them any grief or anything. Bardo, he is in Pennsylvania. Darren, he got back on the trail, and he is starting his flip-flop at Damascus. Screwball and Hot Grease, they are around Bland, Virginia, enjoying a hostel there in Trent's Grocery Experience. And Hot Grease noted in his video that it was around 30 degrees that morning. So we'll talk about the weather here in just a bit. Wild is getting back on the trail probably the first of next week, so we look forward to that. He's put out some good videos, so Wild, look forward to you getting out there. Phoenix and Pappy, they may be back somewhere around the 25th of May. Kodak's getting back on the trail next week for a flip-flop from Harpers Ferry. Rocky's getting back on at mid-Virginia on the 17th. Smiley has decided that he is going to finish his hike by doing through hike. So Smiley got a pretty good ways up north, past halfway, and until he had to get off because of the virus. So he's back home now, and he's decided that he is going to take his lovely wife, and they're going to do it together. they have hiked some 40 odd miles before, but in this case they're going to go ahead and finish the trail in sections no matter how long it takes them. So we look forward to your continued updates on that, Smiley. Bounce is heading into Shannon's today and said a big group went in ahead of them, and that he didn't think that they had any kind of problems. He's going to give us an update and let us know if there's any kind of problems for them, and he also wanted to let everybody know that Waynesboro was hiker friendly. So appreciate that, Bounce. Kitty cruising, her last known position was around Stokoa Gap, and she got off at Stokoa Gap. After getting back on the trail, she decided that it's just not the same as it was before, and that the social aspect wasn't there, and that was something that she really wanted that she just wasn't getting. So we hate to hear that there, Kitty, but in any case, we understand, and that's going to be the case for a lot of folks out there. So, you know, how is the hike going to change for folks out there? So what Kitty was going through is kind of a reoccurring theme that I hear in a lot of hikers. You know, a lot of hikers get on the trail, and that's one thing they're really looking forward to is the social aspect and going into trail towns, and just, you know, everybody loving them being there in trail towns, and that's just not necessarily the case, particularly in those trail towns that have put out that, hey, we don't want you coming through here right now. So there are some of those out there. But you know, that's something that's important to people as part of their hike, and you may not have that this year, certainly not for some time to come. Some other things that are going to be different out there, to begin with, you're pretty much starting over. So if you think about it, you know, when you first started your hike, you had that build up to for months, maybe years, but certainly months, and then weeks and days, and now you start the trail and everything's brand spanking new for you. Well, you've kind of gotten through that now. So now you're going to have to kind of get remotivated to being on the trail and hiking every day, you know, getting up in the morning, getting all your stuff up, cooking breakfast, getting water, hiking, getting to camp, you know, getting water along the way, getting to camp, getting your stuff, your camp set up, cooking, getting water, getting into bed, rinse, lather, repeat, and doing that over and over and over again. So you kind of got to get back into that groove of things, and it's not going to be as new an experience for you. So you got to maintain, you know, your motivation for doing that. Still a good chance you're going to be cold and wet for the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, particularly when you're at elevation. We had cold weather here this past week, so you're still going to have to be used, you know, getting used to that. You're never going to be not walking in the rain at some time. Like we said, it's not going to be as social. Right now, you're probably going to have a heavy pack because you're still going to have some winter gear for the next couple of weeks. And you're going to need to be carrying more food. So you're going to need to be limiting your amount of exposure to town people and going into town. Certainly you need to have a mask when you go into town, some PPE, and for your resupply. You don't want to go in as much, and it may not be possible to go in as much because a lot of shuttles and hostels are not running. Some have even shut down. Some of those have shut down permanently, and they will not be coming back. So that's going to be hard for the class of 220, but it's going to be hard for the class of 2021 as well. So a lot of those things have changed. Right now, if you're not through the shanties, legally you're not supposed to go through them, and so you may have to skip around, or you run the risk of getting fined and escorted out of the park. So hopefully that won't happen. There are people that I've heard that are going through, but in any case, you know, that's not what we're supposed to be doing right now. So, you know, there are a lot of people that are getting back out there on the trail and that plan to get back out there. But if you plan to get back out there, you're probably not going to have a pure no-bow or a pure so-bow, particularly since Katahdin's not opening until sometime in July. So most hikes are going to be a flip-flop. You may not have wanted that to be your type of hike. You may want it to be a pure no-bow hike or a pure so-bow hike. So that's not the way it's going to be this year. And then, you know, for me, yeah, and this is not how everybody feels, but for me, if I was hiking, you know, every time I came to a road crossing or a trailhead and I had to go past a sign that said closed, I would be concerned about getting busted. I would be concerned that I was doing something wrong, and that would kind of add a little to the stress of my hike. So not everybody's like that, but that's kind of the way I am. and that would be an aspect of my hike that you know, it's not something that you deal with typically on a thru hike, and would not be what you would have fathomed that would have occurred on your thru hike. So those are just some things to think about as you're planning on getting back out there on the trail, particularly before areas may be open officially. Okay, we got some trail news, and most of it is positive. So a couple things that aren't necessarily positive. Suchus, which is a great shuttle pilot, he's from Georgia, and he operates from Springer to, I believe, Franklin, maybe the Knock, but definitely up to Franklin. I would definitely look him up. Did me a great job up there. He was a thru hiker and wanted to get back to the thru hiker community, so in addition to his normal job, he also shuttles, but he has always been there whenever I've needed him. I've never heard anybody else say that he wasn't. He indicated to me that the AT trailheads in Georgia are closed. I did get a notice from the National Forest Service where they are opening some trails and camping areas in Georgia in the Cataloochee National Forest, so I don't quite get why they haven't opened the AT trailheads. It's almost like they've singled out the AT not to open it yet. But I do find some positive in that since they open other stuff, hopefully they'll be open the AT here real soon, within the next week or so. And Rody started his NOBO at Springer on May 3rd, and he sent me and you the following reports for what's going on down in Georgia at the trailheads. He said that Woody Gap, both parking lots there were blocked with barrels and barricade tape, and that people were not parking there at all. And as a matter of fact, he had heard that a ranger had stopped somebody from even being dropped off there. Neil's Gap, he said parking along the road was blocked on both sides, but there in the parking lot at Mountains Crossing, people were parking and doing day hikes. Testonee Gap, it was wide open. There was no barriers, no tape, nothing at Hogpen Gap, nothing at Unicoi, and there were cars parked at Unicoi. Nothing at Indian Grave Gap. There was no barriers there, nor were there any at Dix Creek Gap. And as a matter of fact, at Dix Creek Gap, there was cars and shuttles that were running to town picking up people there. So that's kind of where things are going on down there in Georgia. And hopefully those AT trailheads in Georgia will be opening up real soon. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, they open on May 9th, so that's pretty exciting to see there. Thru hiker permits are not available. You can't stay in the shelters, but you can stay at the shelter. So since thru hiker permits aren't available, you have to get a backcountry permit. So the difference between the two is a backcountry permit, you have to reserve a place at a shelter. So you go through their reservation system, and if it's green, that means it has some places there, and you'll see there how many spots are available. If it's red, it's not available. So I kind of planned a faux trip through there, and if you're going through on the weekends, it's going to be really hard because right now they're getting booked up ahead of time. But so, you know, typically as a thru hiker, you don't have to make a reservation. You just get a thru hiker permit. You don't have to make a reservation. You can stay at any shelter at any time that you want to. Well, that's not the case now. You're just like a regular section hiker, and so you have to reserve a spot at a shelter. Now, you're not going to be in the shelter. The shelters and the privies are still closed. So you're going to be at a shelter site, and you're going to camp around the shelter, but not in it. So what they've done is that if that shelter would typically hold 12 people, then they will only allow 12 people to set up camp, tent, hammock, what have you, to reserve a spot at that shelter site. Once that happens, then it goes red and you can't stay there. So, and that's kind of how it always is, even for backcountry permits, and that hasn't changed at all for thru hikers. And I suspect that's because it didn't have a really great way of changing their software to allow thru hiker permits, and they really want to limit people, you know, the whole social distancing around the shelters. They really want people to be doing that there as well. So keep that in mind if you're getting ready to go through the Smokies, be a section hiker or a thru hiker. folks coming in for the day are not practicing social distance. Here's a shot of the Newfound Gap parking lot, and it looks like a parade going through there. And you can see there this group in the upper right hand corner, they are not social distancing, and I doubt they're all part of one big family, you know, blood related. Otherwise you're supposed to be social distancing. So folks, if you're going up there, if you're a section hiker or a day hiker, please keep that social distance in mind. Go to the next parking lot if it's too full, if there's too many people there, because what's going to happen is if they don't do it, then they will shut the Smokies down again until people can learn to do that, or we go into another phase. So I think that's why the Smokies opened up, because they're on the Tennessee-North Carolina border, and Tennessee was already open, and then North Carolina opened this past Friday, so the Smokies went ahead and opened. Hopefully that's going to happen to the shanties. On May 15th, the state of Virginia goes into phase 1, and as they go through the phases and advance through that, then hopefully the shanties in the next couple weeks will be following suit like the Smokies did. Each national park has its own superintendent who can decide when to open up and when to close, for that matter. So that's why they have the staggered opening. So let's make sure that we're out there doing what we're supposed to do. Otherwise, they'll shut us down again, and that is a place that we do not want to go to. Clingmans Dome Tower is still closed, and even the road up to it is closed to vehicle traffic. You can still ride your bike, or you can still walk, but you cannot go up the tower, and you can't certainly drive up there because the road's closed. The tower, typically you can access it from the trail, a little spur trail that comes off the ATs, I don't know, a couple hundred yards long. But if the tower is barricaded, then you can't go up there, and you can see here, you just really can't social distance on the tower, and that's why they have shut the tower down to anybody. So keep that in mind as you're coming through there. All the facilities at Fontana are still closed. I had seen Rocky. She was around the Fontana shelter, the Fontana Hilton there, and it looked like it was open, but she indicated to me that after I sent her a text that folks, somebody came and asked her to leave. So that's still closed. There is a road closed sign up there across the dam. You can't drive across the dam. That trailhead to the Smokies is closed on the other side of the dam. However, my understanding is you can't hike over there. The parking lot there at the dam, my understanding is it's closed. You can go down and I believe park at the marina down there, and you can catch a boat from the marina over to the other shore and take one of those other trails up that meets the AT over there. So hiking with Braid, she may be able to fill us in a comment down here or on her channel a little more about how you would get over to the other side and what trail you would lead you up to the AT. That is kind of her home turf in the Smokies there. And the information I got there about Virginia opening up on the 15th, that came from Joe. So I appreciate you, Joe, even though you just got off the Pinhoti, you're down there still sending me information. So I appreciate that. If anybody else out there has information about what's going on the trail, what's closed and what's not, I would greatly appreciate you letting me know. Send that information to you. This channel is a community channel. It's not just me doing this, so lots of this information comes from people feeding it to me. Candy Mama indicated to me that her and Sheriff, they were keeping the watch over the trailer hostel in Hot Springs, and of course that closed with the virus, and hopefully they're going to be opening that up in May. They say at the end of May at the latest. So we look forward to more and more hostels starting to open. And then unfortunately up in Vermont, the Green Mountain National Forest, they have closed overnight camping over the past couple days until further notice. So you can hike through there, but you cannot camp through there overnight, and that starts somewhere around a mile 1670. So keep that in mind as you're going through there. That's a pretty long stretch up there in Vermont for you to get through there. You won't be able to get through there in one day, certainly. So we talked a little bit about the weather to begin with. Up in Bland, Virginia, Hot Grease had indicated in his video that it got down to 30 up there. In the Smokies last night, it got down to 15. So at altitude, anywhere along the trail, it still can be cold weather. This has been kind of a crazy spring, and there's just no telling when we're going to have a temperature drop, certainly for the next few weeks, I'd say maybe 3 to 4 weeks. You might want to keep that winter gear with you and then keep a watch after that. Those folks got a group somewhere up north, somewhere around New York, I believe, or Massachusetts, and of course they have kept their cold weather gear with them the whole time. So I spoke just real quickly about a dedication that I did to this week's video, and that is to Kyle Coons, also known on the trail as Blaze or Budsy. Kyle unfortunately took his life this past Monday. He summited in 2019, last year, and I just want to send my heartfelt expression of just my sentiments out there to the family Blaze, and to the not only his immediate family but to his family, those people that knew him. I have no idea and why this occurred, and it doesn't need to be public knowledge. It's not important, just the fact that it occurred. I would urge everybody out there, trail depression is a real thing. Please watch your buddies. Please watch each other out there. Please reach out to each other if you feel, anything like this, that where you feel that you just need some help. There are folks out there that love you, that care about you, and that will find you some help. And if you don't know anybody that will, then please give me a call. I will be more than happy to help you in any way that I possibly can. It's just a great tragedy, and something that I hope that we can help people avoid. Trail depression is a real phenomenon. I've seen it in thru hikers. I've seen it in people that just got off the trail here because of the virus, and I've seen it in people that didn't finish the trail from last year. And so I will do my part that I can to help you get over that if you choose to reach out to me. But I know there are other sources there somewhere around home, people that you know that care about you and love you. So folks, that is all I got this week. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. As always, see you out there.